So we've gone through the hard work. We've identified that Azure is the right place for us to go. We've declared all the benefits for that. We've actually migrated our application, or we've started innovating our application. We're starting to deliver some of that function that we've talked about, and some of the migration triggers are starting to be realised. We're onboarding customers. We're selling on the marketplace. We're leveraging the large economic powerhouse that is Microsoft. We're using that to our advantage. We're growing, and we're making sure that customers are having a good experience, and we're enjoying a bit of success. This is what we all want to come and make a realization. So we then move into the next phase, which is about supporting and operating. Once we're there, once we're growing and expanding, how do we support, and how do we make sure that we're always going to give our customers that first class experience? We understand what's going wrong if there's problems happening underneath the surface. I've got disk errors, I've got websites are taking forever to load, or some components authentication is failing, or how can I speed up that operating mentality? How can I release my code quicker? How can I patch bugs quicker? Things like that. So it's very much what we're going to move into now, and it's kind of centralized around the Azure ecosystem of tooling. So Azure do provide us with a toolbox. Ultimately, what is Azure? It's a toolbox. It's a list of different services, managed services that Microsoft deliver to us, backed by SLAs, backed by service descriptions and all the other components. But ultimately, it's that toolbox that will allow us to select the right tool to help us meet that goal. Whether that's I've got web apps, I've got containers, I've got IaaS components, database, disk. I've got all these different components. I don't want to have to use different tools to monitor them. I don't want to have to use different tools to manage the life cycle of them. How can I bring it all into one area? And this is where Azure is very powerful, utilizing common tooling to make sure that you have the right tool at your disposal to do the job ultimately. And looking at that, integration, we've already discussed that most of you will come from, I've already got an application, I want to move that into Azure and modernize it, or I want to deliver that in a different mechanism. Well, we need to make sure that we can understand what integrations you've got in place. If you've already got Docker components, you've already got CI/CD pipelines via another mechanism. Well, how can we bring that into that and make sure that we retain that level of support and integration to other tooling within the Microsoft ecosystem as well? Coverage. So I don't want to have to manually add items. So when I create a new identity, a new Key Vault service, or a new web service, or storage account, I don't want to have to rely upon my staff, my engineers, my developers to enroll them into some tooling or some security framework. I want to make sure that I've got policies in place, I've got governance process in place to capture everything. So when my developers go off and say, well, I need a new dev environment to start testing a new widget on our website. Brilliant. Right, we'll crack on and do that. But if they're going to start moving customer data or start copying code over, I want to make sure that I've got control of that. I want to make sure that I know what's going on. I can limit spend. I don't want them smashing up some massive GPU machines. I don't want them getting carried away with stuff. We always have a go at the developers, bless them, but they're trying to get a job done. But we want to make sure they do that within certain guide rails as well. So an organization has to understand the risk and mitigate that risk as well. And then we have different ways of visualizing this. So moving away from the policy and the governance frameworks, looking at the metrics we capture. We said earlier that Azure would love us to create metrics. It's got metrics and everything, metrics on metrics. But why is that important to you? You want to be able to capture the right metrics. You want to be able to capture the right data for your support teams to use. Whether that's dashboards. We'll go into a bit what other mechanisms there are there, but it will allow you to quickly get to the source of a problem, quickly cut through the noise, and get to the root cause of a problem or identification of potential issues before they become issues as well. So looking at options for visualization. The main tool we will leverage is something called Azure Monitor. So hopefully you've all heard of Azure Monitor. And this tool is one of the key parts to Azure, and it really does allow us to do all of the interesting things, all of the rapid deployments, all of the scalability, all of the high availability options we talk about, and the realization of some of these cloud native benefits. They're all underpinned by Monitor. It maximizes the availability and performance of the applications and services by delivering a comprehensive solution for collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry data. The logs, all the different metrics that are being chucked about the telemetry data that's being chucked about. It allows you to collect and analyze and act upon them. So it's really important that we capture them three aspects. It doesn't just work from the cloud either. So everything within Azure, as you'd expect, is captured. We can also open this up to on-premise environments as well by utilizing agents and things like that. So that could help you in a hybrid approach, where you've got, maybe I've got a big old database that isn't going to Azure. I still need to reference some information. I still need to do lookups against a product catalog or whatever that is. I've got an old CRM system that I need to integrate. Well, we need to make sure that's part of the estate that we're monitoring as well, because we need to have that holistic view of your end-to-end solution, so that we can identify where there's potential problems and hopefully head them off before they head into issues and things like that. But it helps you understand ultimately how your applications are performing and proactively identify issues affecting them, and the resources that they're depending upon as well. Got just a few examples of what Monitor includes. We could talk all day about Monitor really, but we just want to kind of hit it up at a high level. Being able to detect and diagnose issues across an application and the dependencies within an application. So utilizing application insights. We'll go into that next, because that warrants a bit more understanding. Being able to correlate infrastructure issues with Azure Monitor for VMs. So if you've got IaaS VMs, you want to understand what's going on, or even if they're in containers, Azure Monitor within containers. We want to understand and correlate the infrastructure issues to make sure, okay, I've got lots of CPU wait time on this machine. Is that relating to my website being unresponsive? Probably. So what should we do about that? I'll tell you what, let's beef up that server. Let's add more resources, or let's scale that out horizontally. Okay, I've got no CPU wait. Brilliant. Okay, my website's perfect. I've identified the source of the issue. It was, surprise, surprise, infrastructure. It's never my code. It's always the infrastructure. So therefore I've proved it, and I get a pat on the back and we can move on. It also allows you to drill into the data you're monitoring as well. So where you've got lots of logs, passing logs, getting that deeper level of debugging and diagnosis, and to allow you to troubleshoot, what's happened, why is this broken, why did this fall down at 3 o'clock in the morning? Right, let's go through the logs. We've all been there, we've all done it. It's part of the role. We need to be able to pass the logs effectively. We need to be able to understand how we can identify root causes of issues and what happened, and kind of do that forensic analysis of what's going on within the environment via logs. Looking at your support operations, when you start doing things at scale. So at the moment, okay, we might have a lovely support team, lovely friendly staff that are fit for purpose and they're doing the job. But when we start, Liam's just got you onto the Azure marketplace. You've suddenly got markets that you never anticipated. Your products flying off the shelves, kind of thing. You're deploying more and more. We need to start incorporating automation into this. We need to highlight where smart alerts within Monitor are useful, and where we can automate actions. So like I said, I've got CPU wait times. Well, why do I need an engineer to go in and allocate more resource? Why can't I just say, tell you what, if you need more resource, crack on, go and allocate yourself some more resource, automate this action. Don't come and worry my staff. My staff are dealing with customer queries, customer success items. I don't want to have to deal with the infrastructure service. Make sure the smart alert is tied in with a smart action, an automated action, to remedy the situation before I even know about it. I can go back and understand what happened, but I don't want it to affect my service. And ultimately create visualizations within Azure. So your support teams, they're going to want to be able to identify trends, patterns. We're humans. We don't like looking at lines and lines of code. Well, some of us do, some of us don't. I don't. So some developers may, but we want to look at pretty pictures. We want to look at dashboards. We want to make sure that we can visualize these alerts and these tickets. If something jumps up and is red, okay, that's probably an issue. Why is it making it red? Let's click on it. Let's drill down. Let's get some better understanding of what comprises this red blob on my dashboard. It's a really easy way of working with things. That's all underpinned by the workbooks as well. So the diagram there will give you a high-level view of Visual Monitor. At the center of the diagram are the data stores for the metrics and logs. So you can see there we're collecting in storage accounts and areas there where we're collecting a lot of data. Ultimately, that's what you pay for. These are two fundamental areas that Azure will collect, these metrics and these logs. On the right, there's different functions that Monitor will perform on that collected data there. So using analysis, alerting, streaming, integration with external systems, you can see them there. It's acting upon the data that's being collected from the left-hand side, which are the sources. So being able to gather information from an application, the dreaded operating system, the underlying resources, the subscription itself, and your tenancy, and being able to leverage custom sources as well from maybe on-premise assets or external third parties. We're reliant on an API from a bank potentially. Well, I need to make sure that is available and there's no problems there. So I need to feed that data into my overall solution because that's important to the health of my application and the serviceability of my application. Right then, we're going to drill a bit more into App Insights because it's powerful and worth talking about. So this Application Insights is a feature of Monitor. You can't have one without the other. It's an extensive application platform management service. It's predominantly used by developers, for developers or DevOps professionals. You're going to use it to monitor your live application. It's going to help automatically detect performance anomalies. So this is what normal looks like. Any deviation from normal indicates potential problems, and that's enabled. Got my words out by powerful analytics tooling that helps you diagnose these issues and understand what's actually happening. What your users are actually doing, what's happening within your app, and the complete overall health of your application as well. Developers will going to need to install a small SDK package, instrumentation package into the application to enable application insights to use to be able to use the agent. So you can see there's agents that could be based on there. At the moment, they're not generally available, but they will be soon. We'll if that's something you're interested on, then we can let you know when that happens. But it's in I think it's in public preview at the moment, and dependent on the applications, the language that's supported as well. There's a matrix we can dig out for you if you're interested in that. This instrumentation monitors the app and directs the telemetry to the App Insight resource, applies GUID to that so that it allows us to refer back to that as well. We take that instrument. It's not just running on a web app application, but it can also run on the background components. So you can see there it's running on a variety of different services from the diagram. It could be JavaScript in the web page itself, or it could be another application component that's not even hosted in Azure. Once you've put this SDK in, you've configured it, you've got the GUID configured, and the application insights resources are being collected. Obviously, that's within Azure. That's when we start making some more intelligence at the end of it as well. So what does Application Insights monitor? It's aimed at developers. So it's not traditionally for an infrastructure support team or a help desk team. They could probably use some components of it, but it's mostly for developers and DevOps teams to get a better understanding of how your app's performing and how it's being used as well. It's instead of you having to put lots of traps in and lots of alerting into your application, you can utilize this to do this for you. Looks at things like request rates, too many R's, response times, and failure rates. Find out how web pages are being used, what time of day they're being used, where the users are, what they're using, and which pages perform best, where you've got efficient code, where you've got efficient delivery of that. And if the response times and failure rates go to a certain point, then you're going to have an alert. If a page fails to load within a set threshold, well, then we need to know about that and understand what that problem is. We can look at dependency rates. We can find out response time to external calls. Like we said, maybe we're calling out to a bank via an API, and we need to understand how's that impacting my application. If I'm waiting for a timeout, it looks like my application's slow, but really I have a dependency action on an external third party that is causing this to fault. Then what can I do about that? How can I identify that as well? We've talked about exceptions as well. So the analyze aggregated statistics. It's about looking at what's normal, and then we can pick out instances where the behavior was an exception. Why was this fast? It shouldn't be fast. Why was this slow? Shouldn't be slow. Let's look at the exceptions and understand what was happening. We could look at user behavior. So if we're experiencing lots of users accessing certain components of our application and experiencing failures, we can see, well, what brought them to this area? Which way did they come in? And if there's some common trends that have been highlighted, then maybe we can use that to help us identify where potential problems are as well. The usual performance counters, as you'd expect, user session counts. I want to know my resources, CPU thresholds, memory, network usage. As you'd expect, these are all able to be configured as well from that. And then looking at options to be able to view your data. So you can see there on the bottom left, we've got things like application maps. So it's a great visual map of all the components of your application with key metrics and alerts that are allocated with it. So it allows you to see dependencies and requests and exceptions within your environment at a visual level. So you can really go in and see that. Maybe going into profiler, maybe you'd use that. Maybe that's important to what you're trying to look at. So inspecting, the sample requests, or going through, say, let's capture what happened. Let's profile that and see if it happens for me. Okay, it's happened for me as well. There's obviously something there, or it hasn't happened for me. So why is that? What's changed? Usage analyzer. So understanding where your users are, what's happening, what's being used more than something else. So I've just released a new function to my service. Well, no one's using it. Why is that? Oh, maybe it hasn't been advertised. Maybe the marketing team haven't got behind it. Maybe customers don't know about it. So how are we going to get the message out to know about them? Or actually they are using this new feature. It's really good. Everyone's using it. They're getting loads of value out of it. Good. Then that's a good value of demonstration of success that maybe we need to develop that further. It gives you that understanding of where you need to concentrate your resources more. We've talked about dashboards as well, and you can stream these metrics out to other systems as well. Maybe you want to demonstrate KPIs or other reporting services. Maybe you want to demonstrate in your web page, look, our application is green. Why is it green? Because we're capturing live metrics from certain components within our application. So you can go to a status page and say, my lovely application's green because of this, this, and this. Okay, it's amber. Why is that? Okay, certain components have slowed down. Okay, well, that will help you and your customers understand what's happening within your application. Maybe that's demonstrated through a Power BI dashboard, or an external website or something like that. So there's lots of ideas potentially there as well. So moving into actually, this is still looking at the tooling aspects for application insight. So it's very much about the three stages of identifying potential alerts and incidents and problems that come out of it. So we start with the monitoring aspect. We're going to install the Insights SDK or agents when they're available into the application. We need to make sure that our code of the SDK has access to the code, and Azure can then capture metrics and logs and data from that, telemetry from your application. We can try this with you. I mean, you can go in and have a go at this yourself, or there's some examples on the Microsoft websites as well, where you can just go in and install some default dashboards looking for page loads, responsiveness, things like that, and start looking at what this data could mean to you. We then move on to, once we're monitoring, once we're capturing logs, we want to move into a detect and diagnose phase, and this is going to allow us to discover potential problems, and also allow us to assess some of the damage that could be done. So if we know we have slow loading web pages, well, how is that affecting my users? Are they just logging off straight away, or are they trying to struggle on and do something else? Is this causing outages to users, or have we compartmentalized our service enough and implemented some microservice techniques to make sure that it doesn't affect user experience too much? And, how can we correlate that with some of the exceptions and other external third-party traces as well we're doing? Ultimately, though, it's going to allow us to use both the data that we've monitored and used intelligently to allow us to concentrate on feature deployment. So like we said, if we know that our users are using a new feature, we've introduced a new WYSI button on our website, I know that my users and my customers are using that. Suddenly I can concentrate my development resources on that. So I can allocate the limited resources I have on expanding upon that or changing it slightly, really working on giving the users a better user experience as well.